Horror is a genre of speculative fiction that is intended to disturb, frighten, or scare an audience. Horror is often divided into the subgenres of psychological horror and supernatural horror. Literary historian J. A. Cudden in 1984 defined the horror story as a piece of fiction in prose of variable length, which shocks or even frightens the reader, or perhaps induces a feeling of repulsion or loathing. Horror intends to create an eerie and frightening atmosphere for the reader. Often the sensual menace of a work of horror fiction can be interpreted as a metaphor for larger fears of society. So, how did I personally get into horror? Well, it all kinda started with two cartoons. Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog. If you somehow don't fucking know what Scooby-Doo is an American media franchise owned by Warner Brothers Entertainment, and was created in 1969 by writers Joe Ruby and Ken Spears. Through their animated series Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? For Hanna-Barbera, which was later absorbed into Warner Brothers Animation in 2001. The series features 4 teenagers named Fred Jones, Daphne Blake, Velma Dinkley, and Shaggy Rogers, and their talking Great Dane named Scooby-Doo, who solve mysteries involving supposedly supernatural creatures through a series of antics and missteps while traveling on a brightly colored van called the Mystery Machine. The franchise has numerous shows, films, and specials. Scooby-Doo was originally broadcast on CBS from 1969 to 1976, when it moved to ABC. ABC aired various versions of Scooby-Doo until canceling it in 1986. It presented a spin-off featuring the characters as children called A Pup Named Scooby-Doo from 1988 to 1991. 2 Scooby-Doo reboots aired as part of Kids Warner Bros. On the Warner Brothers channel, I'm assuming, and its successor, the CW, from 2002 to 2008. Further reboots aired on Cartoon Network from 2010 to 2018. Repeats of various Scooby-Doo series are frequently broadcast on Cartoon Network's sister channel Boomerang in the United States and other countries. The most recent Scooby-Doo series, Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, premiered on June 7, 2019. Has an original series on Boomerang's streaming service and later HBO Max in 2013. TV Guide ranked Scooby-Doo the 5th greatest TV cartoon of all time. Not surprised on that part. So, what do I like about Scooby-Doo? About its horror? In general, Scooby-Doo's horror is, to me at least, in the original series, all the monsters and horrors that the game faced were humans, specifically humans, that the game knew. That, to me, kinda at least showed that you never really know someone and their motives. They can be very good or very, very bad. So let's talk about that second show, I guess. So the second show is Courage the Cowardly Dog. It is an American animated comedy horror television series created by John R. Dilworth for Cartoon Network. It was produced by Dilworth's animation studio Stretch Films. The eponymous character is an anxious dog who lives with an elderly couple, Muriel and Eustace Bang, in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, a fictional town in Kansas. In each episode, the Bangs are repeatedly thrown into bizarre, frequently disturbing, and often paranormal or supernatural adventures, with Courage often having to rescue his owners from said paranormal or supernatural. The series is known for its dark, surreal humor and atmosphere. The premise of the show is Courage the Cowardly Dog facing the paranormal and supernatural, and while some of the horrors he faces are just straight up hostile, the others are suffering from diseases, stress, fear, anger, and desperation. Kind of showing how even the worst people aren't always what they seem. What I like about Courage the Cowardly Dog is the art style of the show, mixed with its lonely atmosphere and the unique way of showing each villain or monster sticks out to me. inspires me in my art, and know when I get into writing how it will inspire my storytelling. How I got into horror art. Well, horror art is any visual art, painting, illustration, sculpture, or digital art that explores themes of fear, dread, the supernatural, the psychological, or the grotesque aspects of the human experience, aiming to evoke an uneasy, disturbing, or terrifying emotional and psychological response in the viewer. It often uses unsettling imagery, unexpected forms, and techniques, like dramatic use of light and shadow to represent collective anxieties, morality, and the macabre. Key characteristics: the art will explore fear, the unknown, death, psychological distress, monsters, ghosts, the occult, and the surreal. The imagery is very grotesque, unsettling landscapes, disorienting compositions, and twisted forms. Instead of trying to fuck up the human body as much as it can. It aims to create a sense of unease and fear and dread and discomfort in the viewer. Techniques used will be a strong contrast between light and dark, extreme perspective, distortion, and asymmetrical designs to create tension. People will use this type of art as an allegory or metaphor and symbolism to explore deeper meanings related to human anxieties, morality, purpose, and function. It will mirror society, reflecting collective fears and societal values. It also can serve as a cathartic way for artists to confront their own anxieties, fears, and the darker aspects of the human psyche. And it provides a unique aesthetic experience by challenging conventional ideals of beauty and pushing the boundaries of what is truly acceptable. Through the horror genre, artists explore the macabre, the grotesque, the challenge conventional ideals while pushing boundaries of fear and beauty. Artists such as Sidney Sherman, Luis Burgos, I think, I'm sorry if I butcher any names, and Edvard Munch incorporate these elements to express the innate anxieties of identity and morality. Horror art will contain imagery. Okay, I already said that. Now, one of my favorite artists of all time and painters is. Sorry if I butchered the fuck out of your name. I'm so sorry. Zdzisław Bezinski. He was born February 24th, 1929, and died February 21st, 2005. He was a Polish painter, photographer, and sculptor. Bezinski made his paintings and drawings in what he called either a Baroque or Gothic manner. His creations were made mainly in two periods. The first period of work is generally considered to contain expressionistic color with a strong style of utopian realism and surreal architecture. The second period contained more abstract style, the main features of formalism. Bezinski was unfortunately stabbed to death at his Warsaw apartment on February 21st, 2005 by a 19-year-old acquaintance from Williman, reportedly because Bezinski refused to lend him money. Bezinski was born in Sanok, southern Poland. He studied architecture at Krakow Polytechnic in 1947, finishing his studies in 1952. He returned to Sanok in 1955, working as a construction site supervisor, but found that he did not enjoy it. During this period, he had an interest in montage photography, sculpting, and painting. When he first started sculpting, he often used his construction site materials for his medium. His early photography was a precursor to his later paintings, often depicting peculiar wrinkles, desolate landscapes, and still life faces on rough surfaces. His paintings often depict anxieties such as torn doll faces or faces erased or obscured by bandages wrapped around the portrait. His main focus was on abstract painting, and his works in the 1960s were inspired by surrealism. Bezinski had no formal training as an artist. He was a graduate of the Faculty of Architecture at the Krakow Polytechnic, receiving an MSc in 1952. His paintings were mainly created using oil paint on hardboard panels that he personally prepared. Although he also experimented with acrylic paints, Burzynski listened to classical music while painting. An exposition of Burzynski's works, organized by Janusz Bajunik, sorry if I butchered that, in Warsaw in 1964, was its first major success. Burzynski soon became the leading figure in contemporary Polish art. In the late 1960s, Burzynski entered what he called his fantastic period, which lasted into the mid-1980s. This is his best-known period, during which he created disturbing images, showing gloomy, nightmarish environments with detailed scenes of death, decay, landscapes filled with skeletons, deformed figures, and deserts. At the time, Burzynski said, "I wish to paint in such a manner as if I were photographing dreams." Despite the grim subjects, Burzynski claimed that some of his works were misunderstood. In his opinion, they were rather optimistic, or even humorous. For the most part, Burzynski was adamant that he did not know the meaning of his artworks, and was uninterested in possible interpretations. In keeping with this notion, he refused to provide titles for any of his drawings or paintings. Before moving to Warsaw in 1977, he destroyed a selection of his works in his own backyard without leaving any documentation concerning them. From 1963 to 1965, Burzynski wrote short stories. However, he was unhappy with the results and sealed them away, deciding to hone his skills in painting instead. They remained unpublished until after his death. In 2015, a collection of his short stories was published. The stories have a unfinished and chaotic nature. They vary from abstract, onerous tales and philosophical self-reflections to metamorphical, post-apocalyptic fiction and crime thriller stories. Burzynski's literary period is described as short and intensive, as he wrote 40 short stories in fewer than 2 years, experimenting with form and narrative. In the later part of the 1990s, he became interested in computers, the internet, and digital photography and photo manipulation, a medium that he focused on until his death. So, kind of on that, a few other artists I should mention that definitely inspire my art, and they're quite newer, and they are still alive, are Pidge Kanker and Darian Quilloy. Both are horror artists. Darian Quilloy also is known for being the creator of Vita Carnis. So, there's that. So, yes, like and subscribe, and I also have an Instagram, a Twitter, a Blue Sky, and a Discord, all of which you should follow, please. Good night, ghouls, and other creeps.